Congratulations. We made it.
All right. And with that, I think we're free to actually talk. We've talked a lot. We said we weren't going to talk a lot over this debate, but we ended up doing it anyway. I'm Dante Cheney, data journalist from Wall Street Journal, and director of the American Communities Project, Michigan State University. Liberty Vittert is here, professor at Washington University at St. Louis, and editor of the Harvard Data Science Review, and of course, Brandon Finnegan, the co-founder of DDHQ and the current director of election returns. Look, we've said a lot, actually, just watching the debate, but let's say it now. Let's do the quick theater review of what we all saw. Also, I am having an adult beverage while we do this because I need this now.
I will say that this is the first time in modern media, modern politics, and at least the relevant field of political science, this is the first time that the previous president is challenging the current president running under their respective home parties. All right, the last time this ever happened in the history of the United States, nobody in our current electorate was alive. Nobody's parents were alive. Polling as we know it didn't exist. Modern national campaigning did not exist. The first, modern campaign, as we would refer to it, started in 1896 for William McKinley. Right, that's kind of the starting point. It's 4 years earlier than that, 1892. Automobiles were a toy in Germany in 1892. All right. The idea that either party at this point, with this circumstantial election, president versus president, right, with unlimited resources, potentially, that they're going to be able to redefine or reintroduce their opponent is absurd. It's ridiculous. Right. What can happen are events that impact either candidate. Many of them are going to be self-inflicted. Well, here we are. And I think the takeaway can be summarized with the emperor has no clothes. And we all know that story. We've seen it. And we were told one thing, or it's not this way. What your eyes see, what your ears kind of heard, that's where we are. And can Biden recover from this? Yeah, of course he can. He's the incumbent president. Comes with a lot of advantages. His team has tons of money. They've got a lot of dedicated voters here. And his opponent is Donald Trump, who carries his own baggage. But at least in terms of what people are going to take away from this debate, and I said it a couple times, people watched the first 15 or 20 minutes of this, and it reconfirmed either what they already expected or what they already feared. And I don't know if we're going to have another one.
Yeah. I will say, just before we go to you really quickly, Liberty, I've already seen the emperor has no clothes turn up on Twitter, and not from Republican operatives, from journalists and observers. Liberty, what's your takeaway?
I mean, I just think no one really understood how bad it was until we saw this debate. There's been so much talk about how, even Gavin Newsom, right before he was doing an interview on CNN, right before the debate, said, it's just things have been clipped. This is the Trump team. This is Republican operatives. They've taken advantage of clips and all this stuff. This was as clear as day that Biden is too old. I mean, there's no personal opinion to this. It was shocking, really. And I think people are, if I'm a Democrat, I'm terrified. If I'm a Republican, this was the greatest night you could get. So I think everyone originally saying there can't be winners in this debate, there was a clear winner and there was a clear loser. I mean, I think pretty much anybody could have won against Biden in this, but I think there's no doubt that Trump did. And he was also able to really stay calm and stay on point because Biden was doing so bad. There was nothing to egg him on. There was nothing to get him to sort of lose it on anything. And he really came out ahead on this.
Yeah, I mean, we said it repeatedly watching it. We were all kind of surprised that Biden struggled as much as he did. We expected, I mean, look, we knew he's not a young man. He's in his 80s. And that's, you're not the same person, right? I mean, anybody who knows sports knows you're not the same person, same player at 35 than you are at 25, and you're certainly not the same, politician at 80 as you are at 70 or 60. But I was, to Liberty's point, I was blown away because we talked earlier today. We had a little conversation. Just the thought of like expectations are so low for Biden. He's almost got to come out of it in better than the expectations. If he just doesn't collapse, he'll be doing well. This is a bad performance. It's really bad, and there is panic among Democrats tonight about whether this guy can be the nominee. To Brandon's point, there's no time to election day. Things happen, and I would say the most important thing is I have said all along. I don't think this is the third consecutive presidential election that is about Donald Trump. I think 2016 was about Donald Trump. 2020 was really about Donald Trump, and this election is really about Donald Trump. So I don't know and how people feel about Donald Trump. But providing an option, it wasn't there tonight.
I would argue.
So do we make a change? I mean, the big question, do Democrats change it? They dump Biden.
I would argue the point that this election is about Trump at this point. I think that this debate shifted the entire, not to say that it shifted the entire narrative, but a narrative that had already been bubbling and building, that's come up in polling over and over and over, was about Biden's age and Biden's ability to still perform his job at his age. This debate confirmed everyone's worst fears if they had them. Or if you're a Republican right now, it's like that. You're doing like that right now. You're like, this. You've been doing this for your friends. You might have been sharing things on Facebook or whatever, saying, I tell you he's old. This is your vindication, if you will, right? The problem for the Democrats at this point is if you're going to replace him, how? You have to convince him that he just can't do this. And I don't believe that Biden in his heart wants to step aside from this. I think this is personal for him. I think that he badly wants this rematch against Donald. And the person that has to be convinced is him. If there's going to be a discussion at all about replacing him, it's completely killed if he's not going to go along with it. They're not going to be able to drag him to that. So,
absolutely. He's got the delegates. I mean, like the rules as they exist now, he's got the delegates. He is not the official nominee yet, but he's got the delegates.
It's entirely his court. So
now they haven't voted yet. The convention hasn't happened yet. God knows political journalists love talking about brokered conventions. It's what we spend our spare time doing. And the idea that, like, what if they went and then they actually had a real vote, not just how they were supposed to vote. And they're like, we have to make a change. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think if that were to happen, Kamala Harris is the vice president. Yeah. Are you really gonna look? I was texting with a friend of mine tonight who knows a lot about politics, and his response was very simple: that, like, you go to the convention and you let the convention do its work if that's what you're going to do. But somebody's going to have to convince him to step down first. And who's that going to be?
Other than
his wife. Yeah.
His wife would have to convince him. Now, as for this fantasy that they're going to replace him, which just to make it very clear, I think that it's absurd. As bad as this was, I think it's absurd, but let's entertain it for a second. The even more absurd idea would be that they're going to pick anybody other than Harris. Harris is the vice president, all right? Do you really think that the already shaky demographics and issues that the Democratic Party has right now are going to be cured by not only pushing away the guy that beat Donald last time, but also bumping the African-American woman that they have as a vice presidential candidate? Do you really think that's going to sit well with women voters, with African-American voters? Do you think that's going to help you? Do you think picking Gavin Newsom, because I've seen his name get kicked around.
Absolutely.
Do you really think that the electorate is going to respond positively?
No.
To
it's not
Biden off, you know.
I would place the possibility of it happening a little higher than you, Brandon, at this point, just because I think I've never seen a performance like that. That was just like, that performance really surprised me tonight. But I think if they do, there's no way it's like, we're going to replace him and we have this woman who's been his understudy for 4 years, who is an African-American woman, and we're going to leapfrog her with another white guy and put the white guy. It's like, I can't see how that would happen. I just can't see how that would be possible.
You know, they might try to replace, there's all kinds of harebrained ideas that I've seen floated around on Twitter. So, they're going to use this as an opportunity to get Biden out. And this is the funniest conspiracy theory I've heard, is that Biden agreed to this debate as a way to remove himself from the picture by demonstrating this, which is completely ridiculous. But you went down that logic, then they would go down a train of, well, how do you handle the Harris issue? And, oh, maybe she can get appointed to this. I mean, again, it's nuts. I already find it nutty to consider removing Biden on their side. I consider it extremely nutty to then also remove Harris, because you're not going to do that. Like, it's already going to be a heavy lift to convince him to not run again. It's going to be an infinitely heavier lift to say, and by the way, you, vice president, has been waiting in the wings for the last 4 years. Yeah, you're not going to get a crack at the cider.
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
Liberty, you have to speak up. It's your turn.
Well, no, I mean, I just want to know, like entering this, like we at DDHQ, we have a 58% chance of Donald Trump winning the presidential election going into tonight. So how does this change that? Like, what are the numbers going to do after this? If we're not replacing them, what's going to happen between Biden and Trump after tonight?
Well, they're going to go up, and that number is going to go up, I think. I mean,
way up. I mean, is this going to just be a dip like it was with the convictions, and then he's going to recover? Or
I don't know. Like I don't think this is, because we'd said it, and I agree with Brandon. This isn't about Biden. This is about Trump. So, say Trump gets some momentum and starts feeling his oats, and he gets out there and he says, "Look, I've watched some of Trump's speeches over the last few weeks, and he says things that are just like." Real head scratchers, even for Donald Trump. And like, if people pay attention to some of those things, does that say, well, I don't know if I can vote for him either? I don't know. Or does Trump, if he starts feeling comfortable about this, like just say, it's time to put my foot up. If it's very, I don't know if this is easy for him, but to put his foot on the brake, go easy, and I'm going to be a different kind of person. But I mean, we've talked about this with Donald Trump for a long time. I don't know if it's in his DNA, man. The man is who he is.
Yeah. If the person we saw on television tonight is the campaign trail Donald Trump, maybe a little more flair for his base because he loves doing that. If this is it, and what we saw tonight with Biden is it for the next 4.5 months, I think everyone in this panel agrees how this election is going to go. If that all stays, but of course, that's the beauty of this. That isn't how it's all going to stabilize. Like, it's not. Donald will be Donald. He's a man of who he is and what he is and how he acts.
Yeah.
So there's going to be moments where he might screw something up or do something nuts, and that gives Biden a little bit of a leeway. But from what we've already seen, what we've seen as the baseline for this election, where Trump already is set. I want to flip back real quick to the. My screen share if I can. I don't know if I'm presenting right now. I can't tell who's presenting right now.
No, I am. Go, please. Go. Take hold. Grab hold.
All right. So this is where, going into tonight, where I felt this election was, where I feel. Now, I want to make this very clear. All right. I am not on the data science team for the desk. I handle election returns. I monitor that sort of stuff. But I've always had an interest in elections. Right, everyone knows me and my history with things. This is where I was starting at the beginning of this debate. If what we saw is going to be the story for the next 4 months, I absolutely believe that Donald Trump can win Pennsylvania. I believe he'll win Arizona. I believe he'll win Nevada. I believe he'll win Michigan. I believe he'll win Wisconsin. If what we saw goes forward for the next 4 months. Now, if Biden can pull this back, again, Trump either has a gap or something else kicks back another direction, these states can go. But it's a very difficult map for Biden because we're starting at a map that realistic really does look like this. Like, I get it.
I agree.
Considering Georgia's a swing state, but Trump has led in every single poll in Georgia for months.
Yeah, I agree.
For months, for over a year, he's led every poll in Georgia. It favors Trump. So Trump is at 251 electoral votes right now. That's my baseline for where he's at. He wins Pennsylvania, he's president. He wins Michigan and Nevada, he's president. He wins Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, he's president. He wins Arizona and Wisconsin, he's president. You can combine these states, and there's a ton of scenarios where he ends up being president. Biden would have to lock down the core Rust Belt states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania to lock Trump out. And this, by the way, I mentioned it during our thing with the debate. some people have argued, and I believe Elliot Morris had argued that, there's a lot of variance in national polling, sometimes as much as 9 points. All right. Well, let's play that game out. Let's say that Biden swings back into position, and he's the benefactor of a polling swing that's substantial. Let's just keep it conservative. Say it's a 6-point swing from where it is today. Well, that means that Biden would win pretty much everything in gold. Maybe he even has an outside shot in Georgia, and he's president again. But there's two sides to that: 6-point swing towards Biden, 6-point swing towards Donald Trump. That means Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada are all swinging to him. That also means Maine's 2 electoral votes statewide probably swing to him. That means Minnesota could swing to him. Donald could end up with 320 to 340 electoral votes in that scenario when it swings in that direction. And I know that seems hard for people to grasp, but that's what that means.
It is. So the one thing that concerns me is it's what are we? Not even half hour after the debate. We got to see, and we need to see some numbers, and we need to see where things move. But I hear what you're saying. It's getting late. Y'all have watched the debate. If you've been watching with us, God help you. But thank you for tuning in. But just any last thoughts before we kind of sign off for the evening? I mean, obviously, we all feel the big story of this is what everybody feels the big story of this debate was, which is that there's one candidate who really looked uncomfortable on stage and looked like he didn't belong there, and there was Donald Trump. So what do you guys think? Just final closing thoughts before we close up for the closed shop.
Dante, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you wrapped it up perfectly. That's the takeaway. I think it's shock. Yeah,
I'm shocked. That was something tonight. That was really something. So let's leave it there. Go have happy lives. Don't watch us anymore. Go have a beer like I'm having. And we will see you all soon. Next time we come back here and do one of these again. I think we have a primary day coming up soon. But as for right now, y'all take it easy. Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in.
Night.
Good night.